Despite Arkham Asylum already being a masterpiece that still holds up to this day, Arkham City was able to take just about everything that Asylum did and improve on it tenfold. One of the major aspects in which Arkham City improved was the combat. There were more gadgets, new special combo moves, and entirely new enemy types were introduced. And perhaps the most memorable enemy type introduced in Arkham City is the armored enemy. They do a great job of forcing you to make decisions in combat. Do I go for a beatdown on him and leave all the other thugs to arm themselves in the meantime? Do I use my special combo takedown on him in order to get him out quickly? Do I save him for last and run the risk of accidentally hitting him, instantly ending my combo? Well, today, I'm going to be completely eliminating that kind of risk analysis and strategy by making everybody in the game armored. By using a cheat console within the game, you can type in this code while on a death screen to instantly make everyone in the game armored when you respawn. So today, let's put this code to use and answer the question, can you beat Batman Arkham City if every enemy is armored? For this challenge, I played on normal difficulty. Also, I won't be covering the Catwoman missions. I did do them, but in all honesty, they were ridiculously easy, so I don't really feel they're worth going over. So, with all that out of the way, let's get into the challenge. Starting the run, I was very worried that I would fail against the first enemy you encounter. I was scared that this Tiger Guard being armored would cause the scene to bug out and make the challenge impossible. But, lucky for me, I was safely able to counter his attack and progress as normal. So from here, I was able to head to Line A, have a quick chat with Jack Ryder, and then fail the challenge. The first 3 thugs that attacked me went down with a single counter, like they always do. However, the inmate attacking Ryder didn't feel like making things easy for me. I tried repeatedly to knock him out, but he was completely unfazed. So yeah, just like last video, the challenge is made impossible within the first 5 minutes of gameplay. But I'm not going to let that stop me. Sure, this guy is basically Captain America shielding every hit, but that's nothing a little cheating can't overcome. So I reluctantly turned the command off, took him down, killed Bruce while talking with Penguin, and then broke his bloody hand. After gaining control of Bruce again, I turned around to knock out Penguin, which almost didn't work because he tried to block it. Anyways, I was then tasked with taking down his 5 thugs. The first one was automatically knocked out after I countered my 4th attack, but everybody after that was completely invulnerable to my hits. I spent quite some time trying to see if I could maybe knock them out by countering their attacks, but it seems like armored thugs can't be knocked out by a counter. But I had already failed the challenge once, and I wasn't going to let the game fail me again this soon. This is where I implemented the first of many glitches in this run. After breaking out of the handcuffs, it's possible to skip the first fight entirely. By running at this wall with a precise angle and jumping when you reach these papers, you can use crouches to glitch yourself on top of this dumpster. This trick is pretty difficult since the timing is really tight, but after a while I did manage to pull it off, skipping the fight and allowing me to put on the batsuit. The Courthouse was pretty easy. Even without any upgrades, repeated beatdowns and combo takedowns was an instant win button with a group this small, so before too long I was at the church. Things started out nicely here, with Harley scaring me into thinking that I had soft-locked. Luckily, she eventually snapped to the correct animation and allowed me to run into my next problem. It was here that I learned that using this command doesn't make armored thugs with guns work exactly like they usually would. Normally, armored thugs are invulnerable to silent takedowns, but for whatever reason, this command didn't prevent me from using silent takedowns on them. It wasn't too big of a deal though, since I could just self-impose the no silent takedowns rule. So, after using ground takedowns on these 2, I cleared out the rest of the church and was on my way to the steel mill. The steel mill was where I really started to step up my game. I got through the first combat encounter without even breaking a sweat, and by the time I had gotten to this room, I had apparently gotten so good at the game that I was able to knock thugs out without even touching them. But given how easy this challenge already was, I knew I couldn't abuse this newfound power. I had to be the bigger man. So, in an act of mercy, I chose not to use my magical nap time power for the rest of the run, choosing instead to brutally beat my enemies into unconsciousness, even if it was sometimes permanent. The smelting chamber was up next, and this was where I thought I would get my first taste of what Predator sections would look like this run. Inverted takedowns and explosive gel were my best friends, and with a simple beatdown on the final thug, I managed to clear the room. Now, even with this room being as easy as I just described, it was still by far the most difficult Predator section of the entire challenge, because from here onwards, I have access to the greatest item in video game history, the remote electrical charge. Shooting an armored thug with the wreck immediately stuns them and causes them to fly back. This essentially turned every Predator section into the most effortless experience of all time, since a single shot from the wreck was able to knock down one, or sometimes multiple, enemies for an easy ground takedown. So, with the wreck now in my possession, it was time to face off against Mr. Hammer and a bunch of Joker's guys. That shouldn't be a problem though, given how easy every other fight has been up until now.
I will leave you smeared across this room!
Yeah, so I had assumed that the code only applied the armored status to basic enemies. But no, the code truly does make everybody armored. I tried damaging Mr. Hammer in a ton of different ways. I tried using cape stuns, ultra stuns, directed aerial attacks. Even the wreck wasn't having any effect on him. So it looks like Mr. Hammer is impossible to defeat. But who said I had to defeat him? Like a ton of encounters in this game, Mr. Hammer's fight can be easily skipped if you know what you're doing. There's multiple methods of skipping this fight using glitches, but the method I used was actually entirely glitchless and insanely easy to pull off. To start, I made sure to destroy this fan to open up the tunnel before starting the fight. After that, I took down Joker's thugs, grappled up to the tunnel, and positioned myself right on the edge facing this wall. Jumping off the ledge at this exact angle allowed me to glide off this beam. I then turned to the right to do the same thing off the wall right next to the tunnel. Then, by just gliding straight towards the manager's office, I was able to grab the ledge and climb up, completely skipping Mr. Hammer. With Hammer out of the way, Harley slapped me across the face with her wood, tied me up, and let me wake up to an amazing view. But Joker decided he just had to ruin the moment by letting me know that he was the one inside of me instead of Harley. That was the final straw. Make an army of superpowered growing enemies? I can deal with them. Outfit the entirety of Gotham with body armor? I can handle that. But rob me of a night with Harley? That is just too far. And as if that wasn't bad enough, Joker then told me that I was poisoned with his infected blood and decided to give me the Oracle treatment. Upon waking up from my forcefully induced nap, I checked out Snap Map to see where my boy Victor was at in hopes that I could kill him before Joker got a cure out of him. I took a quick break to murder this guy before entering the GCPD, where I was faced with 5 of Penguin's thugs. The speedrun route I would usually use to clear this room wasn't an option since it relies on batarangs. So, for the first time since I was a wee little lad playing this game on an Xbox 360, I entered the room the intended way. But in the end, the inability to speedrun this room really wasn't that big a deal, since inverted takedowns in the wreck made this section a cakewalk. Next up was taking down Penguin's jammers. The first jammer was just a simple combat encounter, so that was easy enough. The second was the most difficult, but still nothing a few ledge takedowns couldn't handle. The third jammer was actually the most fun, since the absence of railings on the subway cars made it extremely easy to knock thugs off the ledges. And even when I wasn't knocking them off ledges, I was still able to entertain myself with some good old-fashioned murder. Now, I wasn't exactly optimistic going back into the museum. The amount of enemies in the gladiator pit would make things difficult enough on its own, but the fact that a Titan thug gets sent out in the second wave scared me more than any amount of thugs ever could. If I entered the gladiator pit and it turned out that the Titan thug was armored just like Mr. Hammer, I would be forced to switch the command off and fail the challenge yet again. Lucky for me though, I didn't have to run that risk, because there's a glitch that allows you to completely skip the gladiator pit. This skip is comprised of multiple different glitches, each of which takes a lot of explaining. I learned all about these glitches mainly from this video, which is a GDQ run done by ShikenNuggets, where he explains a lot of the speedrun tech in depth. The link to that video and to Shiken's channel will be down in the description, and I highly suggest you check them out. Also, I will warn now that, as far as I'm aware, this skip does not work on console. This is going to be a long explanation, so get ready. The first major glitch used here is door canceling, which I went over in my last video. Basically, by equipping the bat claw and going up to a door, you can press the aim, alternate fire, and interact buttons all on the same frame to open the door without going through the animation. This allows you to stay on the side of the door where you're supposed to be coming from, which has some interesting effects. In this case, the room unloads, leaving you in this void of invisible objects. This is exactly what you want, since that means that the gladiator pit is now loaded in. From here, you need to utilize multiple types of storage glitches, which are extremely complicated to explain, but I'll do my best. Corner storage is the first type required. Basically, if you get into corner cover and aim or quickfire your batarang, the game stores the fact that you are in corner cover with a batarang. The same works for the remote control batarang, and if you select the remote control batarang and then quickfire a normal batarang while in corner cover, you get storage on both gadgets. So first, you'll need to obtain corner storage with Batman facing this direction, which can be done either before or after unloading the room. After getting corner storage on both batarangs, you'll need to follow this path. Walk up the stairs and look straight up, waiting for the prompt to appear for you to grapple onto the catwalk that's hanging from the ceiling. Once you've grappled up, dive forward twice and then to the right once. This will put you in the exact position you need to be to clip out of bounds. From here, you need to face this wall and utilize standing storage, which is obtained using a glitch known as Rec Lock. To perform the Rec Lock glitch, simply equip the Rec, then quickly aim, release aim, fire, and switch to explosive gel. This has to be done very quickly, but it's not too difficult to get the timing down with enough practice. If you did it correctly, Batman should be standing in place with the explosive gel out, completely unable to move. Next, you need to switch to the batarang and aim, which will put you in corner cover. This is where we implement the zip glitch. If you simply throw the batarang as soon as you take it out and aim it, the game will clip you out of bounds and into the void. Immediately start gliding and turn to the left so that you can land on this area. At this point, you're just above the gladiator pit, which is very easy to see if you use detective mode. Now just position yourself right here, obtain standing storage, switch to a batarang, and then quickly aim and throw it. If done correctly, you should wind up here. From here, just head to this door, open it up, fall into the void, reload from the last checkpoint, and the game should place you in the armory. Now, this skip is very confusing at first, and takes advantage of multiple pretty advanced glitches, so don't be discouraged if you can't get it to work. It took me nearly an hour and a half to get this skip, but at least now everything was able to progress as normal. In the armory, I ditched the tactic of abusing the Rec and started the encounter by using the explosive gel and sonic batarang to take down half the room. I then quickly went right back to abusing the Rec to take down the last few guys. But hey, at least I played fair for half the encounter. With the armory cleared out, I headed to the torture chamber, where Batman offered me some valuable insight into how to progress.
The undercover cops need my help. If I leave them in the ice, they'll freeze to death.
Anyways, it was time to go help out Freeze. Now, many of you may be wondering how I defeated Sickle. I mean, if Mr. Hammer was armored, surely Sickle is too, so I must have failed the challenge again, right? Well, to that I say, who said anything about defeating him? Just like with his brother, there's a relatively easy trick that allows you to skip the Sickle fight. This trick is known as gel warping, and once again makes use of how absolutely broken the Rec is. To do this, first quickfire explosive gel in this corner and then blow it up. Next, walk into this corner and have the Rec equipped. Now you want to aim the Rec, fire, and then wait just a little bit before pressing the button to quickfire explosive gel. With any luck, the gel will try to warp back to the position of the first placement in the other corner, but will instead wind up on the wall. Then you just detonate it to blow up the wall without Sickle turning the bones in your neck into powder. Overall, this skip nearly always takes longer than just fighting Sickle if you're not a speedrunner, so unless you're using it to help make a challenge doable like I am here, I wouldn't recommend it. It took me 9 straight minutes of attempting this glitch to get it to work properly. And you want to know the worst part? Even after all the pain and suffering I went through to be able to get to Freeze, he didn't even appreciate me freeing him.
We are not friends.
So I grabbed his life support, and I threatened to pour it all out right in front of him. But then I realized, if Freeze died this early, the story wouldn't have any stakes. So, with much reluctance, I decided to give him his life support back. And you know what? He continued to insult me even after I saved his life.
Fuck you. Find my suit.
By now, it was clear to me that Freeze had no intentions of being civil, so I decided to just cut my losses and do what he wanted. After obtaining the disruptor, I headed over to Penguin, using another glitch to skip having to beat down Tiny. I did this mainly because I wasn't sure if Tiny would be beatable or not, and I didn't want to take the gamble that he wasn't. I did go back here after the run was done and found out that he is in fact beatable though. Anyways, I disrupted Freeze's gun, uppercut Penguin, and moved on to Solomon Grundy. Going into this fight, I wasn't optimistic that it would be possible. But, much to my surprise, Grundy being armored didn't at all affect my ability to fight him. So this entire boss fight actually played out like normal. blow up the generators, beat him down, and then rip his heart straight out of his chest. And with Grundy down, Penguin, for the third time now, proved himself completely unable to block a punch. With Penguin and Grundy down, it was time to start tracking the assassin, who I was luckily still able to counter and place a tracker onto. And with that, I was on my way to suck Raish dry right in front of his daughter. Going through the sewers in Wonder City wasn't anything all that noteworthy. The fact that knife wielders were the only new enemy type introduced by this point meant that combat was still extremely easy, and the Wreck was still doing a terrific job at trivializing stealth. Things did get a tiny bit interesting when I encountered my first ninja fight, though. Since ninjas aren't ever able to be armored in the normal game, and have a completely different set of animations from normal thugs, anytime I would try to hit them without cape stunning them first, they would just tank the hit like it was nothing. But even with their ability to eat my punches one after another, they didn't exactly make things difficult for me. Except for this one, who decided that she would get in my way even after having been knocked unconscious. A few quick scans and an acid trip later, I found myself face to face with Raish Ghul. He took a bath in the Lazarus Pit, because apparently a 6'2" man weighing in at 210 pounds of pure muscle versus a geriatric feral ghoul isn't a fair fight. And as if that wasn't enough of a boost to Raish's odds, he also took the opportunity to ground himself. Yeah, so for whatever reason, Raish is completely unaffected by the Wreck. I tried over and over again, but no matter what I did, he was entirely immune to my attacks. And there's no skip for Raish's boss fight, like there is for a lot of the other sections in this game. So, as unhappy as I am to say it, I did once again have to turn the code off in order to take Raish down. With this one minor adjustment, I was able to take down Raish, harvest his blood so I'd have a little snack for later, and then head over to Mr. Freeze so I could finally put him in the ground. But before getting to Freeze, I was introduced to shield enemies, who I was very worried would be the bane of my existence. Since armored thugs are immune to aerial attacks, and shield thugs are only able to be damaged by aerial attacks and special combo takedowns, I thought they would be nearly impossible to take down. I greatly underestimated just how overpowered the Wreck is, though, because apparently shields are no match for a ball of electricity. The fight before leaving the subway tunnels wasn't too much of a challenge, since I just pretended I was playing as Deadshot in Injustice 2 and zoned the entire time. Freeze actually went just like it usually would. My ability to attack him wasn't affected at all by him being armored, so within less than 2 minutes I was able to take him down. Joker once again swooped in to stop me from having fun, since he broke into the safe and stole my snack. Then, as if that wasn't enough, he blew up Batman's girlfriend's helicopter. To be honest, I didn't really care if Vicky died, but I was so angry at Joker that I just had to take it out on somebody. And unfortunately for this thug, murder was the only thing that could calm me down at this point. With my blood boiling at least a few degrees cooler now, it was time to steal back Raish's blood and finish what I had started. The extreme heat of the cooling tunnels had gotten my blood boiling again, so I casually decapitated this guy before leaving the Two-Face thug dangling above a pit of acid. I decided to change up my strategy a bit when I got to the smelting chamber. Rather than abuse the Wreck to spam ground takedowns, I decided I would abuse it to knock thugs off the same two ledges over and over. I cleared over half the room by just going back and forth between these two ledges before committing my 10 millionth murder of the run. In the next room I, surprise surprise, killed yet another thug, and with that I was onto the ghost train. This fight was not only difficult, but actually pretty interesting. Going in, I thought for sure that this fight would be impossible for the same reasons that you're probably thinking right now. This fight requires you to take down Joker, a bunch of random thugs, a Titan thug, and Mr. Hammer. And it's those last two that had me scared. So, here's the part where I turn off the code and fail the challenge again, right? Well, no. Against all odds, I managed to get through the entire ghost train fight without turning off the code. The fight started out as normal. Beat up Joker and then take care of a few normal thugs, at which point Mr. Hammer appears. Now, I had an idea going into this fight. I knew for a fact that in the normal game it's possible for Mr. Hammer to be knocked out by the special combo Bat Swarm. So I thought that if I kept my combo count high and continually used that near him, maybe I could knock him out. But after using the Bat Swarm multiple times, it became clear that he wasn't being affected by it at all. So I shifted my focus to the Titan thug, who had just come into the fight. My main goal here was to just figure out if he was even beatable, and much to my surprise, after downing him with explosive gel, I found out that Titan thugs being armored does not affect my ability to fight them. Yeah, so the hour and a half I spent learning how to skip the gladiator pit? Entirely unnecessary. But this was still great news, since it meant I now had a backup plan for taking down Mr. Hammer. My plan was to deal as much damage as possible to Mr. Hammer by hitting him repeatedly while on the Titan Thug's back. Unlike every other attack I tried up until now, Mr. Hammer actually reacted to getting hit by the Titan Thug, so it was starting to seem like this plan would actually work. That is until I knocked out the Titan Thug before Mr. Hammer was down. I had come so far in the fight. Nearly everybody was knocked out, the Titan Thug was down, and I had just a sliver of health left. All that stood between me and victory was a one-armed bodybuilder with a clown fetish. There was only one idea I had left for taking down Mr. Hammer, and it involved one of my favorite hobbies, vehicular manslaughter. By continually luring him onto the tracks, I could get him hit by the bumper cars over and over again, which should whittle down his health. One of the times I was running past him to lure him back to the tracks, I randomly decided to hit him, and for whatever reason, this was apparently enough to knock him out. Why did this hit actually do damage when none of my others did? Who knows? With everybody else knocked out, it was time for Joker to receive his beating, and what a beating it was. And with that, the ghost train was successfully beaten with everybody being armored. Apparently, this entire time, Hugo Strange had been planning something called Protocol 10. I was more than content to leave him to his devices, but Alfred decided he was going to block off my internet access until I stopped him, spouting off generic BS like, oh, it's wrong to let hundreds of people die when you could easily save them. I didn't want to, but at this point I had no choice but to listen to Alfred. So I headed to Wonder Tower, watched some amazing high-quality content, fought my way through my competition in the murder market, scaled Wonder Tower, and found myself going up against Strange's last line of defense. They were no match for the power of the most overpowered weapon in the history of fiction. So 30 seconds later, I was face to face with Strange.
You have not won. You cannot submit. I win. I have saved.
With Strange down, it was time to take care of Joker once and for all. I handled the first few snipers by simply disarming them with the bat claw. That didn't stop this guy though.
Chicken!
Don't worry though, I made sure to punish him before taking care of the rest of the snipers and heading inside. Clayface, just like most other bosses, surprised me in the fact that him being armored doesn't affect my ability to damage him. The first two phases progress as normal, and the third phase is fairly typical, except for the fact that the little clay monsters sometimes don't die after being hit, since the game counts them as having blocked the hit that literally split them in half. But without much difficulty, I took down Clayface, threw up in Joker's drink so he would die when he drank it, and proved that no, you cannot beat Batman Arkham City if every enemy is armored. Or can you? Many of you may not know this, but there's actually a way to skip the majority of the game. And no, I am not talking about the New Game Plus speedrun route. I'm talking about the method used in the Batman's Revenge speedrun category. In this speedrun, the game is started in Harley Quinn's Revenge. Then, glitches are used to get back into the main game, at which point you can use even more glitches to skip straight to Wonder Tower. And the best part about this method is that it allows me to skip the only two people I was unable to take down in the main game, those being this inmate and Ra's al Ghul. To beat the game from Harley Quinn's Revenge, I simply progressed through the DLC as normal for a while. I fought my way through the steel mill as Robin, eventually coming across Batman's utility belt. At this point, the game gave me control of Batman, but I couldn't glitch into the main game just yet. In order to beat the game, you need the Master Control program to hack a few Tiger panels during the journey through Wonder Tower. After gaining control of Batman and Harley Quinn's Revenge, one of the first things you're tasked with doing is obtaining a code for the cryptographic sequencer. Lucky for me, the code that you're tasked with collecting in the DLC is the same as the Master Control program. So I interrogated Harley's guys, obtained the code, and headed over to this building so the glitching could begin. To glitch back into the main game, I started by getting corner storage on both batarangs in this spot. From here, I grappled up to this roof and positioned myself in this exact spot. After facing towards Amusement Mile and obtaining standing storage, I performed a zip glitch by switching to the batarang, aiming, and quickly throwing. The timing was tight, since if I took too long to throw the batarang, I wouldn't end up where I needed to be. But after many failed attempts, I eventually pulled it off and zipped to the base of Wonder Tower. I had to immediately start gliding along a very specific route to crank toys, making sure to avoid all the invisible walls and water that the game has placed around the outside of the map. And after a while, I managed to make it to crank toys, where I entered and exited the building to warp back into the main game. But I wasn't done yet. I still had to glitch my way to the Wonder Tower elevator. To do that, I headed to this crane, where I once again got standing storage and performed a zip glitch. From here I glided, yes, that is the actual past tense of the word glide, over to this door, which brought me to an unloaded version of the collapsed streets. Then I jumped into some water to reload the room and made my way to the elevator. Heading up the elevator, I made the mistake of getting diagnosed with stage 3 crushma, which very quickly became fatal.
Target neutralized. Arkham City experiment is a...
My next attempt, I activated my Ligma shield by grappling at just the right time to phase through the shutter. And from here, it was business as usual. I made my way up Wonder Tower, took down Strange, killed Clayface while his minion trash-talked me, and proved that yes, you can beat Batman Arkham City if every enemy is armored. If you feel like this victory shouldn't count because of the extreme glitches necessary to pull it off, I completely understand. I personally do count this as a victory, but that victory comes with a massive asterisk. Truth be told, the challenge was exceptionally easy. Even outside of the glitches I was pulling off with it, the wreck is just so overpowered in a challenge like this. I'm very interested to see what's waiting for me when I get to doing this challenge in Arkham Origins, since the lack of a wreck will make things much more interesting. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and check out my other videos as well as the Pineapple Pie podcast, which I'm a host of. That's all I've got for now. See ya.